Welcome to the Orson Gigi Grilling Gala. We are honored to have Chef Todd here, which would not be the gala without you here. So thanks for joining us for the 2021 version, which by the way, this is our 10th year. So we're really excited. We're really ready to celebrate. And we kind of have a fun theme this year. We're using the grill to get away because so many of us have learned that our backyards and our homes can be an escape from the world. And so we're gonna come to you with some ingredients, some recipes, and full of flavor to help you get away.
Flavor!
But we wanted to start because before we give you all those recipes, you kind of need to know what you're going to be picking to eat and what to choose. And I'm going to be very honest with you. Sometimes when I'm looking at all of the meat selection on the grocery shelves, I get a little overwhelmed because I think, okay, can I just go with a higher price point and feel like I'm getting great quality? But sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. So tell me what we're going to be doing today.
Meat, lots of meat. So we're gonna do actually 6 different kinds of beef, 2 different kinds of pork, 2 different kinds of chicken, 2 different kinds of seafood. And the cool thing is every year we're like, let's just really talk about meats. So many of you have asked, what's the best grilling meat? What's the best smoking meat? What's the best price point? All these different things. And so, today is your day. And we have lots of meat to show you.
In true Chef Todd fashion, I said, let's just pick like 4 or 5 pieces of steak so you can kind of do the difference. And you showed up with
6 steaks,
12 different
6 steaks, 2 porks, 2 seafoods, 2 chickens.
So if you have other questions after this, we would love to know what you need. I feel like we are going to cover all of the bases here.
We do number 12.
All right, let's get started with number 1. Tell me what you've got on the cutting board today.
Well, hamburger.
Hamburger. Because I will be honest, I am one who buys it already ground.
Right, and you don't know what's in your ground beef.
It's very true.
So if you want to know what's in your ground beef, number 1, all you got to do is get this attachment. This is a cool attachment we sell here at Gigi with our KitchenAids. It is a grinder, meat grinder. And if hubby's a hunter or your wife's a hunter, then guess what? You can grind your own meat. But normally, you're like, I want the best burger ever. Well, make your own beef. Okay?
Because generally, maybe within the grocery store, it's kind of the lesser quality types of meat that they're just grinding together because you don't really know, right?
Yep, and they're adding other additional fat. So a lot of time you'll go to the grocery store and you'll see ground chuck.
Yes.
Chuck is a very good meat to grind, and this is why. You can actually see this. You can see that big chunk of fat right there, and then you can see other fat. You want a certain ratio and percentage of fat in your ground beef. Okay. And usually we all love the 80-20.
Yes. We've
heard 80-20. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means it's 80% lean beef to 20% actual fat.
Okay.
So you want about an 80-20 blend. The more fat you put in, the more juicy, the more greasy your hamburger will be. The leaner you go, maybe you go 1585 or even 1090. The leaner it will be, which will also create dryness.
Yes.
Okay, someone gave me a turkey burger the other day, and I'm like, take a bite out of it, and I'm like,
because flat's flavor.
Turkey doesn't have fat.
Right.
You have to add so much fat, and so chuck is really the best grinding meat. And you can also use trim from tenderloin and trim from other steaks and things like that.
I was going to say, do you combine?
Yeah, you can combine. Sure,
okay.
You can combine. So if you're buying meat and you're going to butcher and process and put in your freezer, which a lot of people should be doing, you should be trying to bulk up and make sure you have some kind of
extra
savings of beef. That would be good. Anyway, so that's your chuck. That's a normal piece. This is how you find it in the grocery store. Buy a couple packs.
And it's labeled chuck roast? Or?
Chuck roast,
Okay.
Cube it up, and this is just cubed. And you can see the fat ratio in there.
You left the fat on,
80,
you just
20.
cut it into chunks.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I would normally say you're good to go. Grind your beef and don't flavor it. If you must flavor it before you grind it because then it's automatically mixing in. Okay. So if you must flavor, which I don't suggest, there's nothing better than a hamburger. Just eat beef.
This is the one thing that I really love about the way that you cook is that you're preserving the flavors that naturally come with meat. There's so many times where people are like, I'm going to marinate this for 18 plus hours, blah, blah, blah. And essentially what you're tasting there is the marinade and not necessarily the meat.
So if you must season, but season lightly. If you want a garlic herb burger, put your garlic in, but not very much, guys. You don't need a lot. Remember,
is this Chef Todd?
Taste the beef. This is Chef Todd's pit seasoning.
Okay.
Yep, we sell it right here in Gigi. So then once you get your flavorings in there, guess what? Now you can actually get all that mixed in. Now you're really more prepared to go to the grinder. When you go to the grinder, you want to make sure all the attachments are on secure. Make sure that's there, and you also want the plunger. This is the plunger.
And there's different like what
Dies, they're called dies.
Okay, and so are you going with a pretty coarse one?
Yeah,
here?
I'm going with a fine die.
Oh, okay, fine.
So this is, and the die is basically the size of holes on the grinder. And so these holes are just a little bit smaller, which makes it a more finely ground piece of meat.
Okay.
And then you want to turn it on high, and then go ahead and start feeding your meat into the grinder. And once you get it packed in, just take the plunger and push it right in there. And you can see that white, that's the fat, the dark is the lean. This is really, really cool because you are grinding your own fresh meat. And there's nothing better. Like the other day I had some people over and we wanted to have hamburgers, and I didn't want to have a hamburger from the grocery store. I refused. I got the hamburger out of the freezer, actually fresh ground, but we froze it, thawed it out, and made my own hand-packed hamburger. And there's just something to be said that you know what's going into it, you know where it's been, you bought it, you processed it, and it's just awesome. It's the home run. It's the way to be. Especially in today's society, I think we're all moving a little bit more to, I want to do things at home, and I want to know what's in it, and I want to, and also you can save a little bit of money.
Well, I love that you said that you can still freeze it, because I think so many times that we're like trying to plan ahead and do things where, like, say if I had some extra meat that we didn't want to cook up, I can still cube that, ground it, and then save it for another night, right?
Exactly. So you can see, look how really nice this hamburger is.
It's beautiful.
That is really beautiful ground fresh beef. And guys, we all love hamburgers. And we have so much steak and awesome things that we're going to show you in just a second. But at the end of the day, we go to the hamburger.
It's true.
And so when you're doing hamburger, remember, 80-20, you want some good fat in the beef. You want 20% fat to 80% lean. If you must flavor your hamburger, flavor it before you grind it. Make sure the cubes are small enough to fit through the grinder and not have to make the grinder work too hard. And then go ahead and just grind it. Now, if you want it ground further, you can take this and go right back in and run it through one more time, and then you'll get a finer grind. Just run it through twice.
So if I am trying to get, is it kind of like a pasta maker where I need to grind it like bigger before, or could I have just gone right to the smaller?
No, I went right to the smaller, but if you want it even more emulsified, more together and more smaller, you can just grind it once and then grind it again.
But this can handle.
Yep, it can handle it. And then when you pack your hamburger, guys, now you are the judge of the size of your beef, okay? Make sure that you pack it first in a round circle, and you want to make sure that that's packed hard, okay? And you want to pack it like a snowball.
Okay.
Then you literally want to just push this down to the thickness that you want.
How thick do you usually go for?
I actually go quite thin because when you do hand-packed hamburgers, you're actually going to have a lot more shrinkage.
Yes.
Just because when they do it in the machines at the process plant, they're more packed.
Sure.
So that is about the perfect size for a regular bun because that'll shrink up. Then I'll season it with salt and pepper or Chef Todd's Pit seasoning. I'll put it on a hot grill, and that just, it's gonna be succulent.
So you've taken this to about a 5-inch circle, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
How small would you say it gets to? Like a 3?
It'll shrink about a 1/2 inch all the way around.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So that'll be perfect.
I gotta make sure I'm buying the right buns.
Your buns are about 4 inches.
Okay.
Mine are 5. I'm kidding. But your buns are usually around 4 inches. And so you wanna create a nice 5-inch to 5.5-inch diameter, and that'll shrink up to perfect bun size.
Perfect.
Yep. So anyways, good luck.
So a
eating
chuck
burgers.
roast to a hamburger, ready to go.
Ready to go.
Earlier in our video, Todd talked about running this through one more time after it's already been ground. So we're just going to get it extra fine, would you say? What did you, emulsify?
It actually will emulsify the fat and the beef together more.
Okay. So does that maybe just create less of a division as it's cooking?
Yes,
okay.
exactly. When you really want it to be together, that's what'll make the juicy patty. Who doesn't want a juicy patty? Who doesn't want a juicy steak? Guys, Oftentimes you go to the store and you just buy steaks. You know, every time they cut a steak, it costs you more money.
True. Oh.
So Costco, Sam's Club, meat markets, anywhere like that that actually is serious about meat will sell you the whole subprimal cut.
So what is this called?
So
if I go to the butcher, what do I say? I want
the strip loin. So this is a subprimal of sirloin or strip loin. So turn around. This is your basically your ribeye. This is your strip loin, which is your loins. And then underneath the strip loin, thank you. Underneath, that was awesome. Underneath the strip loin is your tenderloin. And then on the rump side is your sirloin.
Okay.
So there's all your parts of the cattle. But this is the New York strip, which basically is sirloin. But very commonly known steak. So if you go to the steakhouse, you're gonna have 4 to 5 main steaks.
Yes,
you're gonna have a ribeye, you're gonna have a filet mignon, you're gonna have a New York strip, you're gonna have a sirloin or some kind of thing like that. But there's also other steaks that come from other parts, like the flat iron steak. Did you know that came from the front shoulder? That comes from the chuck. Oh. Did you know that the skirt steak comes from the rib? It's actually a section off the rib. So skirt steak, flat iron, they're very secondary style cuts, but become popular because what happens is a big famous restaurant or a famous chef to put, you know, skirt steak on their menu, and then all of a sudden the whole world's selling skirt steak. And then skirt steak goes from $3 or $4 a pound to $7 or $8 or $9 a pound. So that's kind of what happens.
So tell me what am I looking for in all of the differences in all of those?
So you just, if you're in the mood for a New York steak, you've probably had a New York steak before. You're going to be better off cutting it yourself to get the size you want. Okay. Then you'll also be able to use your trim, and I'm going to teach you how to use your trim. But first,
you're going to be butchering this while we chat,
right? We're going to butcher. So first, I'm just going to start butchering, and when I butcher, I'm actually going to just start trimming this fat off right off the top, and I want to trim the fat first. Now this little piece here, no problem. Okay, I cut that, but that's not a problem because I'm going to use this meat. This meat is good. Use everything you possibly can. If I was doing a large batch or a large scale of ground meat, I would put all this in my grind.
Is this something that I could find on the shelf, or is this something that you
Yes, so a lot of times Costco will actually have these in the meat case whole. They definitely sell whole tenderloins, beef tenderloins, which we're going to butcher in just a minute. And they will also sell these whole. If they're not out, just ask them, can I get a whole strip loin? And they'll be glad to get it for you. And that they'll charge you, actually, most of the time, they'll charge you for the whole price, which I think this was $11.99 if you were buying steaks, and I think I got it for $9.99 because I bought it whole. I saved $2 by buying this whole versus buying actual cut steaks. Okay. So you got to always analyze, you know, what you want. Now, if you don't want any fat on your steak, trim it all off, no problem. But a classic New York steak, which is what this will be, has that fat on the outside. You don't want to trim all of it. Now I've trimmed some. You saw me carefully take some fat off, but you want some fat on, and that is a 1 pound New York right there. This is about a 14 ounce New York steak right there. Okay, that's a 14 ounce. Now you can cut them smaller. If you don't want a big thick steak and you want to get more steaks, then you can cut them thinner. Look at that. That's about a 9 ounce. And that's still a very nice piece of meat.
It is pretty.
Okay, and then let's talk about marbling while we're here. While we're cutting into this meat, you're gonna see internal marbling. Okay, this is wonderful. So this is exterior marbling, and then the fat that's inside is called interior marbling, subcutaneous fat, okay? That marbling is what gives you juicy flavor. That's wonderful. So Kobe or Wagyu beef is loaded with marbling inside. They actually raise and breed the beefs to have fat inside. So the more marbling doesn't mean the meat is bad. Okay. And a lot of times people's perception is, oh, that's got so much fat, that meat is bad. No, the more fat the meat has, the higher grade it is. Okay, okay.
But
So,
it's in a mixture of on top and within.
Yes.
Not just.
yes,
Okay,
this is
okay.
Angus beef.
Okay.
And so this has fat on top, and it has some fat in, but not as much as you would get if you were ordering a prime grade or a Wagyu or a Kobe. Okay.
How many really would you get? Because I'll be honest, taking one of these homes is a little intimidating for me because number one, I don't know how much I'm going to get from it, and number two, what am I going to do with all of this?
Right, right. Well, you're going to get about 15 big steaks
Okay.
and almost 20 small steaks.
Okay.
But now you just saw me take this wonderful loin,
Yes.
like that,
Okay.
cut that section out, cut it in half, and now what we're going to get out of this is called a Manhattan fillet.
And is it anywhere specific in this loin? Because you cut these ones from the end and this one from the middle. Does that matter? Is it just the size?
Yeah, the Manhattan fillets, I'll always try to take the center cut.
Okay.
And I'll cut them like this, and it's called the Manhattan fillet because it looks in the shape more like a filet mignon now.
Yeah.
But it's still just a strip loin. That's why we call it a Manhattan fillet.
Okay. Because it's a little smaller, did you cut it a little thicker?
A little thicker.
Okay.
More fillet style.
Okay.
So you can cut your fillets out of there, and to be honest with you, I just love this size better than this. I mean, you put that on a plate, and you're like, oh my.
Well, I like
You're
to have some
what?
salad and something. Like that. So
Give me some taters. I mean, this takes the whole plate. So
my husband would love this, but
this
for
is
me,
this is more, in my opinion, how I like to cut the New Yorks, more in the Manhattan fillet side.
Okay.
Because one, I can get more out of them,
Okay.
and I just think it goes longer, and then two, it's just more comfortable size.
Is it a little bit easier to cook because maybe it's not so thin that you're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's pretty uniform.
It's pretty
all the way
uniform. It can go all the way through. Now, another quick technique, on New Yorks, you don't always need to do this because New York steak is usually pretty tender, but you can take the Ricardo tool to this just a few times.
And it's just got the little blades that are.
Yeah, so what's that doing is that's going in the steak like this. And why that is because this meat actually has the fibrous tissue going this way, which is called the grains.
The grains, yeah.
And that's why we're always cutting against the grain. You don't want to cut your steaks this way because that's the way the grains are going. That's why we're always cutting our steaks against the grain. And if you roast this thing whole and then carve it like a prime rib, you again want to cut against the grain.
Because the strips would basically be going the same way as you're biting, and so then if it's going shorter, it's less things to bite through, right?
Right, right.
Okay.
So we have a nice 1 pound New York, we have a nice 8 to 9 ounce, and we have our Manhattan fillet. Okay, so there's that. We have these chunks you can roast whole. I really love roasting these, the tail side. I love roasting those whole.
Okay.
Cook them on the smoker for a couple hours, put the thermometer in, cook it to 120, pull it out, let it rest.
Is
and
this
then
like
you
a
can just
Sunday
carve it.
roast? Like I could put it in
It would be like a prime rib style.
Okay, so fancier
Yeah,
than the normal
prime rib style.
Sunday roast.
Okay, now on this side real quick, this side now you can see that this side is totally looking different.
Yes.
This is what we call the vein end side. Let me just cut this now here, and you're gonna see what we call the vein end. Okay, so what happens is as we go further down, this is the best part of the loin. As we go further down to what we call the vein end, you're gonna get this, what we would recognize as gristle.
Okay.
Okay, it's this major vein or silver skin right on top of that. And this makes this end a little less desirable.
Okay.
Okay. So what you can do with that meat is just basically this section. This section is still good. You can still get many steaks out of there. So that section's awesome. But this section, what you can do is you can turn this into kebabs, or you can cut them thinner and you can put them on your grill, your Weber grill, and do them really fast and do like a Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you cut these very thin, because remember, if you're gonna bite into that thing, it's no good. Another way to do it too, just take the whole vein right off.
Because this still has a little bit of that veining in it, but you said that one's okay.
It's not quite as thick.
Okay.
It's a little, for a steak, you don't want to get to that and have that put in your mouth, and it's
So
just
as
uncomfortable.
you're going through all of this, as you notice that it's getting a little bit bigger, that's
Yep.
telling you it's time to find another use for that.
In the restaurant world, we would call this the blue plate special. So this would actually, these steaks would be on our lunch menu.
Okay.
They would be priced lower,
Okay.
and they would be cut thinner.
Okay.
True story.
Okay. No.
Where these steaks here, the beautiful end,
That's saved
well,
for a night.
it's saved for the night, and you're gonna charge $35 for that, $38. So it's just the difference. part of the meat. All of it's usable, but you just want to know what size is what. And you know what? Don't be afraid to start doing this yourself. After your first one, you're gonna just say, man, that was weird and challenging, but I can do this. So I think you should. I think you should start looking at more whole meat, more whole processing. But this is your strip loin. This is what makes the New York steak, the Manhattan steak, kebab meat, and all other kinds of different things, roasts and things like that. So now we want to get it to go to the grill, right? But when you go to the grill, you're going to a 400 to 600 degree dry heat desert. I mean, it's like, hello, why don't you just kill your steak, right?
You need the sunblock.
So we're gonna put some sunblock on this bad boy. We're gonna start with a marinade. Now, I've always taught and thought the process of marinating is 3 basic principles.
Yes.
Number 1, flavor. Number 2, acidity. And number 3,
fat.
so we're gonna put a little bit of onion.
I've been listening all these years.
Oh, baby. I love it. A little bit of garlic.
I love that your littles are,
Thyme.
you know, just
Rosemary. Parsley. Pit seasoning.
always. Tell me, like, you don't have to give me details.
Salt.
Onions, peppers, what's in the pit seasoning?
Seasoning.
She's not gonna tell me.
Balsamic.
I can look on the back.
Yes, you can. The ingredients are listed on the back. Okay, balsamic.
It's just normal flavors though, right?
Yes.
Like, it's just a
It
perfect
is salt,
combination.
pepper, onion, garlic,
I'm
chili,
not asking for the recipe. I just
other
like,
things, and other specialty.
But it's good. It's the perfect combination to top
Onion.
any meat.
Yep. Okay, so this is a balsamic flavor marinade. Flavors coming from onion, from garlic. It's very savory, very delicious. Okay, and now we're gonna put our 3 steaks that we want in here. We're gonna get them flavored first.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1, and then our little Manhattan dude.
How long are
Number
you gonna
2.
leave these in here for?
This is like, honestly, for me, I don't like to over marinate at all. So this is a 30-minute marinade.
Which I love because sometimes I'll go into the recipe and it's like marinate 8 to 12 hours. And
Yeah.
now I'm like,
Who has time for 8 to 12
I want to cook
hours?
this in,
Now.
Yeah.
Now, right now. Have a nice life. Okay, salt, pepper, and that's it. Now just let this sit. So all that flavor can just kind of enhance and edify and lift up the steak,
Okay.
rather than taking it down to a dark balsamic dungeon. We don't want that. We want to elevate our steak with balsamic. So that's delicious. There's your marinade 101. Remember, flavor, acidity, and fat.
Are you wrapping it and leaving it on the counter
Wrap
or putting
it.
it in the fridge?
I actually, when I wrap it, I'll put wrap right on it, and then
Okay.
I'll wrap it again on top.
Okay, and then put it in the fridge? Or...
Put it in the fridge.
Okay.
But if you're gonna cook it in 30 minutes, you can also leave it at room temperature, because when you go to the grill, if your steak's a little bit more warm,
Yeah.
it actually will cook better. Because it's like coming out from the fridge, you're all cold,
Takes
and then
you
you hit
minutes
the
to soften up.
500 degree desert, and you're like, ah, and you freak out, and the muscle does the same thing. Anyways, cheerio.
Okay. So 30 minutes on the counter, just covered, and you're ready to go.
Yep.
Okay. All right, welcome to class number 3. Tell me what we've got on our cutting board now.
The beef tenderloin.
Tell me where this is found on the cow.
Ooh, well. Under here.
Okay.
It's actually underneath kind of the strip loin, connected to the hip.
Okay.
That's why it's so tender, is it's a muscle that's never really used.
Okay.
And it's just delicious.
Pretty good marbling throughout. Tell me.
Nope, not very
okay.
good marbling
Okay.
on this, because it's just not used very well,
Okay.
but it doesn't really need it because it's so soft.
Okay.
It's so succulent. So the beef tenderloin. Now listen, to buy 4 steaks at the grocery store
Yeah.
will literally cost you $40.
Okay.
Between $30 and $40 if they're good steaks. So my suggestion is you try to buy them whole. You can get a whole one like this for $100, $110, and that's still a lot of money.
Again, at
But-
the normal grocery store, is this more of like a Costco Sam's?
This is Costco, Sam's,
Okay.
or a meat market. But you know, like some of those meat markets will charge you more. You can get your best value at
Okay.
probably Costco or Sam's.
Okay.
And they'll sell the whole.
And is
they'll
this
sell the
again available just on the shelf, or is this something that you need to ask the butchers? Like
whole.
specifically
Generally, you'll find whole tenderloins
Okay.
at Costco and Sam's in the meat cabinets.
Okay.
But if they're not there, just ask and they'll get them to you. And remember that most of the time you're going to get a better deal on buying whole than you would buying steaks.
The only difference between the ones, it's just that it's already cut for you, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna display and show you the different cuts of meat today off of the tenderloin. So this is what you would call the tournedos or the medallions. Okay. You're gonna get those from the end, also from some of the side muscles.
Okay.
Okay. Once you get through the tenderloins on the end, you're gonna get what we call the mignons. The mignons are thick and small. Okay. That's a filet mignon right there.
Okay.
This is another filet mignon. But you're only gonna get really about 2 to 3 true mignons.
Okay.
After that, it becomes center cut fillets, and you cut those a little bit thinner. But that's called a center cut fillet.
And I'm gonna be honest, I did not realize that those two were coming from the same cut of meat.
Yeah, so the mignons, which are thinner, that's a mignon. We're gonna bacon wrap that in a minute. And then I'm gonna show you a cut now that is called the Chateaubriand. So a Chateaubriand is actually beef tenderloin that is roasted whole. Okay, I'm gonna remove this side muscle.
Why?
Because
you just don't want it?
Yeah,
okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
The Chateaubriand is basically the center cut. Here's some more tournedos as well.
Okay.
Okay, but the Chateaubriand is basically the center cut filet mignon, filet of beef fillet, and it's roasted whole. So now you would season this, marinate this, and put this on the Traeger and smoke that. And then you would actually, when you serve it, you actually slice it thin for your guests and give it to them.
Okay.
That's a Chateaubriand.
About how many would you be able to serve from a piece about that size?
That size you would get at least 4, but you could easily squeeze 6, no problem. So if you're serving it with a tiny piece of salmon, which I highly suggest, you would do 1 nice piece of that with a nice little 3 ounce piece of salmon.
That's typically not a piece of meat that I'm going to see like a cut.
You have to basically ask for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But you don't have to ask anymore because
It's become
you're going to do your own.
Oh yes, we are.
So this is the side muscle, and again, you can get another mignon. See how nice that is now, and then you can get another medallion as well.
So it's basically that like strip of fibers there that you were not wanting to have on here because you were able to cut these other pieces and use them.
Yep.
But it's just because there was that fibrous part in between the two of them.
Yeah, I just removed that. Here's some of that trim there.
Okay.
And so now you have your basic cuts of a beef tenderloin. You have your Chateaubriand, you have your center cut fillets, another center cut fillet, and then you have your mignons, you have your tournedos or medallions, and then you have your trim pieces. And trim pieces, we shouldn't even have to tell you what to do with those. You know, those go in the saute pan and in your mouth.
Oh,
boom, 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 boom.
the burnt ends.
Or cut them thin, stir fry, or cut them in small little chunks and they go on a skewer. That's your skewer meat.
Okay.
And so everything is good. This tenderloin did not come with the chain meat, which I want to take note of, that you're actually getting better price per pound because the chain meat has good meat on it, but it takes some time.
What's chain meat?
It's basically, here's the tenderloin, and that whole thing was whole. It's another piece of muscle that you have to pull off and remove.
Okay.
And it's just, it looks like a chain.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of weaved in with fat and meat.
So if the piece that they get has that on it, you just
pull
trim
that
all
off and trim all the meat off, and that meat's going to become your stir fry, your skewer,
Okay.
you know, anything like
Don't
that.
waste
And
it.
technically, in old school, that's what became beef tips for stroganoff or beef tips and mushrooms.
Okay.
These are your wonderful cuts of the filet mignon. When you're going to the grocery store, the best way to do it is to butcher your own. But if you have to buy it and you want a chateau, ask your butcher, they'll help you, no problem. But welcome to the world of filet.
I loved this one. I feel like I learned way more about the different cuts of meat on this one and realized that, like, because it can feel a little daunting, but I got this one.
You got this.
I can do
You
this.
can do it. Anyways, you can too. Welcome to Gigi.
We're gonna get it ready for the grill, but we're not gonna do it just throw it on there because we've got to wrap it with some
bacon.
deliciousness, right?
Yeah. So, couple trains of thought here. Why classically and traditionally do we wrap tenderloin with bacon?
Give it more flavor.
More flavor. Because remember, when we were talking about marbling on the New York steak or any steak, tenderloin doesn't necessarily have tons of fat.
Right.
And so wrapping it with fat is a good idea to introduce fat to it. So
say if I have, I'm gonna take this a whole new route for a second. Say if I have like game meat, elk or deer or something that generally doesn't have a ton of fat.
Just cover it
with
in bacon.
Just do bacon, then
Yeah,
it makes it
wrap it 10
edible.
times. Yeah, wrap it 10 times. But great question, because a lot of people, especially moms, wives, their husband goes out and gets this elk, gets it butchered, brings it home and says, honey, cook it.
It sits in the freezer.
Yeah,
And so,
we'll take the loins out,
okay.
take the steaks out, and wrap it with bacon. So what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm actually pounding the bacon out just a little bit. Two reasons.
Okay.
Number one, that'll help give it thin and help it cook better. And then two, I want to basically wrap that all the way around that bad boy. And then you can just wrap it this way. When I get to this end point, I actually take that end and I go right underneath my bacon and tuck that in like that.
Oh, so
Okay.
you don't even need a skewer.
But if you want a skewer, rosemary is the best way to go.
Oh, and
And then you can come back and you can put that piece of rosemary in, and there is your wonderful bacon wrap fillet.
Well, look at that.
So again, I like to just pound my bacon just slightly, but I'll start with thick bacon.
Okay.
But this will give me a little bit more surface, and it'll actually make it a little bit longer for easy wrapping. Then I'll take my mignon, I'll take the bacon, I'll wrap that guy up. This guy is a little bit too long, no problem.
You don't want to just keep wrapping?
Well, the problem is it won't cook. So then again, the secret and trick, take that extra, tuck it underneath that piece of bacon there like that.
Okay.
Then take your rosemary skewer and push that through that piece and into that piece, and now you have another
Beautiful.
mignon.
So how do you season it from here? Salt, pepper?
Salt and pepper,
That's
that's
it.
it. Put it on the grill, on the smoker or the char grill, but you don't want to cook this high heat
Okay.
because it's so thick, you'll burn the outside and the inside will be raw. So you want to turn the heat down to medium, low,
Okay.
and slow cook it.
Indirect heat on the grill or?
Direct heat.
Direct
Yep,
heat,
just put
okay.
it right on. You can rub a little bit of oil on as well, season it and just put a little bit of oil on. The bacon will drip and get fatty, so when you're cooking it on the char grill too, make sure you have a little spray bottle of water for flare-ups,
Okay.
because you don't necessarily want the flare-ups, because the flare-ups create basically a bad smoke, and you don't want the bad smoke on these babies. But look at how cute
It's beautiful.
these little mignons are. And guess what? This would cost you $19 to $24 in a grocery store already done. And you can buy the tenderloin for $12, $11, and the bacon's cheap. You can have these done for $5 to $6 cheaper doing it yourself.
That's great.
And the other thing is you can wrap the whole thing with bacon.
Oh, yeah.
All the steaks if you wanted. And these will freeze very nicely if you have a cryovac, or if you don't. Just wrap them 3 or 4 times with plastic wrap. Put those babies in the freezer, 4 of them, you pull them out, 4 people, boom, done, easy. It's that easy. So just remember, you're cycling through, you're thinking about your forecasting of your menus and what you want to eat. And when you buy food, buy it in whole pieces and cut it yourself. Look how nice this steak is. Look at this Chateaubriand. Guys, it's so much better. Anyways, we're gonna go cook these on the grill.
This is gonna be kind of like a fun, celebratory type of meal.
I'm telling you, if you come home with this, if Daddy came home with that,
Well, here's
you'd
the
be
thing.
like,
we
what
were,
is
we were at
this?
Ruth's Chris once, and they brought one of those out, and my husband was like, "Why didn't I get that?"
You should have
I
got
was
the
like,
tomahawk.
No way am I gonna get.
All right,
eat
so
this,
what is a
but
tomahawk?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
No idea. Other than
So
it's
they
served
call
with
it a
big
tomahawk
bone.
because it looks like a little tomahawk, right? So this is a ribeye, the ultimate ribeye. This is a ribeye steak,
Okay.
bone in though. So on the ribeye is that top half of the back of the cow or the steer, and it actually connects or sits. I'm good.
Okay.
It actually connects or sits on the ribs. These are ribs, right? Here's the ribeye sitting on top. So you can actually slice those bones, and that's when you slice the bones, that's what you get is a big, fat, awesome steak, and we call it a tomahawk.
When
Now,
did this become like a thing?
oh, this has been around. You watched any videos, Cowboys?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
this,
Like the
this is
bone and-
awesome.
yes,
Yeah,
okay.
this has been around a long time.
Is it like a manly thing?
This is a
Okay.
I mean, look at this awesome steak, dude. That is one steak.
I'll take the tri-tip
It's
any
amazing.
day.
But by the way, back to hunting, you can get a tomahawk from the elk,
Okay.
and they're not so big and so intimidating, but still very cool and very, very awesome. So just consider that.
It's a fun presentation.
It's a fun presentation. So if
Okay.
you had a group of 8, people, you could probably do 2 or 3 of these and have
feed
enough.
everyone? Okay.
And you open the smoker lid and have 3
Yes.
of these just low smoking that you've been mopping and basting. I'm telling you what, you will be the new dinner party house for
So
sure.
does this come available, like, do you need to trim it, or you buy it kind of like this?
You can buy a whole ribeye, but I wouldn't. I would just buy the tomahawks
Okay.
and then just do it. And this is, again, to me, this is like a special occasion
Okay.
steak.
Okay.
They'll run one of these will run you about $30.
Okay.
So if you buy 3 of them for 8 people, no problem. You'll have plenty of meat, but you'll be up to $90 to $100. But if you serve them all tenderloin, you're more than that already anyway. So
for the tomahawk, just look for it ready to
Yep.
go at the grocery store.
Yep.
And
And
again,
cooking-
Costco, Sam's Club again.
Yep,
You'll have something
yep.
like
This
this.
was
Okay.
this was actually from Sam's Club.
Okay.
And again, cooking wise, you can do this on the char grill, but remember, turn it down because it's such a thick piece. You
Okay.
want to make sure you have time. But more appropriately would be awesome on the smoker.
Okay.
So I would smoke.
As
this
I'm
for sure.
looking, I want to make sure that I'm buying because it is a little pricier. What am I looking for in like the grains and stuff?
It's already cut, so
Okay.
the grains actually run this way, so this is already cut against the grain.
So do I want something
So-
with maybe like a bigger fat cap, or am I like they'll
No.
trim everything?
No,
so,
they'll do.
okay.
It's
Just
already
trust
been-
the butcher
Yep.
on this one, is what
Yep.
you're saying.
But you can trim more down if you want, but I think that this is perfect how it's displayed.
Okay.
So again, I'm just gonna do a little bit of a flavor rub on there. And this is Chef Todd's Pit Seasoning you can buy right here at Giggy. So you wanna rub that in. Again, we're gonna put just a bit of salt all the way around, especially on that outside fat. And rub that in. We're gonna put some pepper on both sides. And this is coarse pepper because when you're cooking steaks, you really wanna be able to have that crust and that grill and that caramelization and that char to be like, oh my gosh, that's so delicious, right? And then when you cut in the meat, it doesn't have all that flavor, but that outside's enough to say, okay, I've got plenty.
Okay.
Now, again, I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of garlic on here because this is almost like a whole roast meat, like a one piece, even though this could be a single serving, which is, for me, it would
For
be great. But for most people, probably a little bit big. Okay, but definitely if I was hungry, I could
Matt
probably
would love
do that.
this if I, you know.
Okay, then we have a little tiny bit of Worcestershire. And this is just to kind of help give it some moisture and also to help flavor. And you can see what that does now.
You use this a lot for adding flavor. It's just, I mean, I see that.
Worcestershire, yeah,
a
I
lot of
love
your recipes.
Worcestershire sauce. It's awesome. It just gives good flavor. So now that's perfect, right? It's marinated, but it's not. Will you open that one for me? So to finalize this and to give it a little pizzazz and a little step up, this is black truffle oil, which the garlic and the herbs with this very fungus aroma of mushroom, okay, which is what truffles are. This oil's been infused with those truffles. So for our fat, remember the 3 layers of flavor of marinating, right? Is flavor, acidity, and fat. So our flavor was garlic, herb, seasoning, and our acidity was Worcestershire sauce, and now our fat is truffle oil. So now this, guys, is really prepared for a full gourmet, awesome opportunity to go to the grill or the smoker. Smoke that on about 250 degrees.
Okay.
I wouldn't smoke it on smoke.
No.
Get it up because you want some caramelization.
Okay.
And then put the probe in,
Okay.
put it right in the center, and cook this to 120.
Okay.
At 120, turn it up, or put it on a sear pan and just give it a quick sear and caramelize the last little bit, and then let it rest, and then carve away. I'm telling you, you're gonna be in heaven. Anyways, tomahawk.
Tomahawk. All right, we're to my favorite cut of meat. I honestly use tri-tip anytime we're celebrating, enjoying something. I love a tri-tip.
You know why?
Why?
Because they're good for pot roast, they're good for smoking, they're good for medium rare, they're good for steaks, they're good for everything.
Oh, and they're,
I mean,
so
they're so
easy to cook that I mean, we'll
Yep.
like put some Italian dressing, salt and pepper, and it tastes so good.
So good. So, real quick, these are tricky. The
Okay.
reason why is, if you look, you can see the grains, see the lines?
Yes.
So when you cut this, you've got to cut against that. You can't cut the steak this way.
Yes.
Or it'll be stringy.
And sometimes within a tri-tip, the grains will change directions
Yes.
too. And
So it is a little bit tricky as far as finding the grain and cutting against the grain. Just remember, when dealing with tri-tip, always find the grain and cut against the grain.
Okay.
Okay, so today we really wanted to talk to you about it. These have been trimmed. I couldn't find any that had been not trimmed all the way.
I thought they were helping you, but they really
Right.
weren't.
So anyways, normally there's tons of fat on these.
Okay.
So there's still plenty of fat there, but you wanna make sure that you take off some fat but leave some fat. Like this fat is very good.
Okay.
It's flavor.
Okay.
That fat is actually good. That you can just see it's it looks tasty, like it's gonna melt.
I mean, I'm not like.
You're not a fat eater. I am. I love fat, dude. Like the grilled fat is the best part. But
I'm
anyways,
happy
old
to
school.
trim off, but I'm also happy to leave some.
My
because
wife though,
I'm-
if she
Yes.
yeah, you ladies don't like it at all. But I did want to show you one thing here. This is what we call the silver skin.
Yes.
And this is basically what we would know as gristle. And so we don't want that silver skin. So we
You
want
find this on
to trim that
ribs
off.
too, right?
Yes, and we want to trim that silver skin off. So now, once you get your tri-tip cleaned and ready to go, everything's good.
Really
Okay.
quick though, we were talking about where you find this. This is kind of like that troublesome area.
I
Yes.
have seen these
No,
literally.
on the cow.
Oh,
Yes.
on the cow.
Yeah.
I've seen them in every grocery store. Though. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure everybody's carrying tri-tips now. And they are, in my opinion, the most reasonably priced.
I agree.
And so, you by the way, finding them trimmed, you're going to actually probably save a little bit of money because
Per pound.
but they may upcharge a little bit for the trim.
Okay.
So it's 50-50, but compare prices always. So on the actual cow, right here is your sirloin, right? This is actually a top part of the sirloin. And it's almost like the culotte. So you're basically, it's a flat meat.
Okay.
And you peel it off of the sirloin or what we call the rump.
But so the fat's pretty easy to trim.
Yes,
Where I was going
there
with
is
this.
marbling
Like-
inside,
Okay.
and there's also decent fat on the outside.
Okay.
So if you do buy them with the fat cap still on, you literally just take your knife and you just trim the fat down to where you want, how much you want.
Okay.
You can take it all the way down, or you can leave it like this where there's some fat still there. I think this is perfectly trimmed because on the grill or on the smoker, this fat will help moisten and
Yes.
flavor your meat.
If
So
you were
keep-
cooking this in the oven, would you be trimming it a little bit more, or?
I would
is
leave
this-
more fat on.
Okay, more
Yep,
in the oven.
yep,
And why
because-
is that?
That's called barding, basically classic method of barding where fat is wrapped around the meat.
Okay.
So as it roasts, the fat melts and continually flavors the meat. And then we're going to show you in a minute injection or what we would call larding. And larding is where you put fat into the meat, whether
Okay.
it's injection or whether it's pulling with a needle fat through it. So really lean meat like eye of the round, which nasty. Very dry meat. You definitely want to lard. you want meat fat on the top. You want bacon wrap that thing. Do whatever you can because you want that fat. You want that flavor. You want that moisture. But tri-tips are totally awesome. Start buying them. Use them. They're great for smoking. They're great for grilling. They're great turned into steaks. They're great for stewing. They're great for
So
pot
good in
roast.
salads.
Like I use them for pot roast all the time. 3.5 hours with carrots, onions,
never done
celery,
that.
and you make your gravy right there. And this is the best pot roast in the world.
So we're back to the cutting board with our tri-tip, and we want to add some flavor and some fun and get it ready
Flavor!
for the grill.
So this is pretty cool syringe, right? It's got big holes here, another one on the back, and we're gonna actually pop that in here. But first, we're gonna fill it with this flavor. Now
Tell
look
me
at
what's
this.
in here.
It's called Green Goddess.
Okay.
No, it's called
Oh,
Green
it's
Love.
like-
No, it's actually just butter, melted butter, garlic, herbs, and a little bit of seasoning. Okay, and I blended it in the blender so that it was smooth, so that it would go through the syringe. But remember, fat is our friend when we're grilling meat because fat gives you moisture, fat gives you mouthfeel, and fat gives you flavor. So we've flavored fat. Will you hold that?
Yeah,
just
do you
like
have like a combination of flavors in here? So like say if I wanted to just create my own or use up some of the things that I have, do you have a certain ratio you're using here?
For that much, I only used about 1.5 tablespoons of garlic. I used about 3 tablespoons of chopped parsley and 1 whole stick of butter.
Okay.
Salt.
And
pepper.
then
Yep.
just in the blender.
Now I've got it in my syringe. I filled my chamber. Now you put the needle in.
Oh, did you see that pocket there?
Yeah. And we just inject using these wonderful syringes that you can buy from Gigi. Again.
Chunky.
Getting juicy in here. A little bit over here. A little bit over here.
Can you over inject it or does it just come out?
Does that even? Is that even a thing?
I'm just asking.
Do I look over-injected to you?
No. But like,
yes, you could probably over-inject,
Okay.
but I think
because
it's going to take a lot.
It would just come out, but also, I mean, I don't know.
I overdo everything, so I'm sure it's over-injected. I'll move to the next one.
No.
Okay, now I'm going to go back in.
Is there certain
Watch
areas?
this pop up.
Yeah, is there certain areas that you're looking for as you're looking to where to put it in, or you're just finding a spot?
Just little pockets.
Okay.
Look at that. Oh man, we're having fun now.
So why not just put this on top?
Well, because it'll run off immediately when it hits the grill, right? Okay. So what we're doing is, while the meat cooks, this butter is going to be flavoring the inside.
Okay. Will you use this on the outside as well?
Yeah, like we're going to just rub it on, and we're going to actually season the outside like we normally would.
Okay.
Oh man, I can't wait to eat these.
He's really glad this worked because he made it up as he was in the kitchen.
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, pit seasoning on the outside. Shh. Okay, see you, Heather.
Bye.
Okay, pit seasoning on the outside. Sprinkle. Sprinkle. Okay, salt, of course. And when you're doing your meat, you really don't be bashful. You want salt.
So good.
Okay, salt.
Do you like this coarser kind of this diamond crystal?
I love
salt?
the diamond crystal kosher.
Yeah.
It's the right salt.
I agree.
It tastes delicious. It's not like it's unsalty, but it's not salty. It's
I
like,
agree.
You can put a lot on, and it doesn't really ever taste too
It's
salty.
the perfect size too.
Yep. Okay, so now we've got it flavored and seasoned. I'm going to put just a tiny bit more garlic on the tops of both of these. A tiny bit of herbs on the tops of both of these. I'm going to rub that in, kind of put it into the cracks and crevices. And now I'm going to put just a drizzle of oil, which now turns it into a wet rub, which actually there's no moisture in oil, but it's wet.
Are you going to go down that route, or are we just
No,
going to
we've
leave
already
it
been
at
down
that?
this road.
Watch last year's video on that.
Watch
one.
last year's video. I think we spent a half an hour on that.
We did.
Okay, here you go. That's done. Now those tri-tips have been injected. They've been lightly marinated and seasoned, ready to go into the smoker immediately, or the char grill will work as well. I know that's surprising to hear, but the char grill will work. Just don't turn it on high. Turn it on low, mop and baste, and when you make a mopping solution with this, I would do just a tiny bit of Worcestershire, a little bit of oil, a little bit of the same seasonings you seasoned with, and you're done. And just mop and go. And remember, this cooking time is minimum 30 minutes.
Okay.
On a smoker, more like an hour and 20.
Yeah.
But on a char grill, you can probably get them cooked on both sides and medium rare, medium, in about 30 to 40
But
minutes.
still, in the cooking world, when you're talking steaks and stuff, that's not a long time for
No,
this size.
this is awesome.
yeah.
But look how awesome that meat is. Have fun cooking this. Can't wait to see the grill in a minute.
All right, we're to our last part of our beef series here. Tell me what this is.
This is beef.
Is it?
Yeah, no, this is actually the entire sirloin minus the sirloin flap, which is the culotte.
Okay.
So it actually is about this big with the flap on. And I want to basically break this down for you and show you, but I want to talk, wanted to bring sirloin in because sirloin is one of those things where like, okay, I only have so much money.
Yeah, yeah.
Sirloin is like the cheap man steak.
Okay.
And that's okay. But sirloin also has great flavor because it's part of the leg and it's used as things. And so, in my opinion, sirloin tastes really delicious.
Okay.
But how do you make sirloin taste really delicious but have almost a New York or a filet mignon tenderness?
You can get that.
We're going to show you.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing we want to do is take some more fat off. And again, you can leave some fat on. It's okay. But I'm going to take some more off, because this is kind of a more. This is usually how the whole thing looks, minus the actual cap is here. Where that's.
Have you cut this off, or did the butcher do that?
The butcher did this.
Okay.
So this is all I could get right now in the store, whole. So this is a whole sirloin now. This fat removed.
And on the shelf, what is this labeled?
This will be. You're going to probably have to ask for this,
Okay.
but this came from Sam's Club.
Okay.
Costco also has whole sirloins, and you can ask both the butchers there, because you know the meat guys are in the back, you just ring the little bell and they'll come out and say, can I help you? And you'll say, yes, could I get one whole sirloin, please? And it'll come out in one cryovac bag.
Okay.
And you'll be able to take it home and butcher it. So now you
So there's nothing like a smaller version of this on the shelf already.
No. Yes.
Okay.
Steaks.
Just steaks. Okay.
Usually sirloin steaks.
So already
you're gonna get the stew meat from this.
Okay.
You're gonna get kebab meat from this. So all the little packages, you're gonna see the kebab meat, the stew meat. You're gonna see sirloin steaks. A lot of that meat comes from this. Also comes from the inside round, which is the bigger part of the rear.
Okay.
Okay. So now you can kind of see butchering, guys. When you're butchering, you just gotta kind of see, but the meat will show you. But there's a line right here of fat, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's a line right here. That is basically a natural break in that muscle. Oh. So I'm gonna go right through that, okay? And that right there is where they're gonna get the classic cut.
Within every one?
Yes, every sirloin is this way.
Okay.
This is where you're gonna get the classic cut of what they would call a baseball steak.
Oh, I've
so
actually never
baseball steaks are from the sirloin. They're like a fillet, and I've actually wrapped these with bacon and had them on many restaurant menus.
Why baseball? Because of the shape it is?
Yeah, because it's the size of a baseball. You can cut them a little bit bigger. Like
they're not like served at like the best baseball games.
I wish, right? I'll be at every baseball game. So there's a perfect example of your baseball steak sirloin. Okay. A lot of classic diners things. This has been on the menu for a long time, but these are your that's how you get your baseballs. Now, you go to the grocery store, but you always usually see sirloins and they're like this long.
Yes.
And they're like 1 inch thick and they're this long.
Yes.
This is where you actually will get those steaks. It's from the remainder of this. So I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna square that off. This piece becomes your kebab meat, your stew meat, whatever you want. Beautiful, right?
Just cook those while you're cooking everything else.
So there's your awesome baseballs. This piece right here kind of didn't make the cut. It's going in stew meat. Okay, now I've squared that off. Now I'm gonna be able to come back and cut some amazing sirloin steaks.
Oh, they are beautiful.
So if you've been to Texas Roadhouse and you walk in to the front door, there's a big cooler and they have tons of these steaks just sitting there, freshly cut. This is what they're serving.
Okay.
There's a 12 ounce. There's a 10 ounce. Look at those.
What would you say is the most common, maybe this is a hard question, the most common steak served?
Most common are the top 4.
Okay.
The New York, filet mignon, the ribeye, New York filet mignon ribeye, and
not the sirloin?
I would say sirloin.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought there was one more. Nope. So those main 3, the New York, the ribeye, the filet, those are your top 3.
Okay.
Those are your most expensive because of the volume that we go through them. And then sirloin is next. You can see how much meat you can get out of that subprimal cut of beef. That's why this cost is a little bit lower. You can see that the meat is not as soft as tenderloin. It's definitely more chewy. You can just see the chew on it. It doesn't have as good as marbling as like the New York did, or even the ribeye.
But you're gonna change that.
Yeah, we're gonna change it. So remember, the tissue, the grains are very chewy. That's what makes it chewy. And we've cut against the grains. You can actually see the little grains in that meat there. And so now we're gonna actually take it even more, and we're gonna break the grains up with these little knives.
Because it's a little bit more cost-effective way to serve, right?
Yes, yes. So this right here is called dracarding. So we're breaking up the tissue, which when you bite into it, the tissues are already broken up, so you can imagine now it's more soft.
So it's like the mama bird getting it ready.
That's right. That's right. Mama bird.
Yeah.
Peck, 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 peck.
Chewing it up for you.
Yeah.
Can you overdo this? I feel like I could like take
I just
some
do a few on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is definitely free anger management, no charge for me.
Okay.
So now we've talked a lot about marinating, flavor, acidity, and fat. I've done some complex marinades. I've done some simple things, but I really wanted to do it even more simple.
Okay.
Okay, salt, pepper.
Is there a rhyme or reason to the order that you're putting it on?
You always want to season first and then put the oil on, because if you put the oil on first, the oil actually puts a little shield up against it, and then the seasonings can't really get into
I
it.
think in my mind I would have thought, well, I want it to stick better, so I'm going to put some liquid down to like have it stick. But no, oil is last.
Yeah, season first, fat is always last because the fat will seal it.
This is your sunblock.
Yep, that's my sunblock.
Okay.
So now it's just salt, pepper, a little bit of oil. Now you can go to the grill and you're just gonna eat meat.
And you prefer to grill this, not smoke it?
I would grill it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why is because smoking, it's very mild and it's like game almost, where game, if you overcook it or cook it too long, it's gonna be tough, nasty, and chewy. This is almost that way. You wanna hit it hotter, quicker, and serve it medium to medium rare.
Okay.
And you're gonna love it. It's gonna be delicious. Don't overcook this. Could I put some thyme and herbs on there? Sure. Could I do you can do all kinds of things with marinade. We've shown you some great ideas. But just remember, flavor, acidity, and fat. I didn't put any acidity on here. I just wanna eat meat.
Okay.
Salt, pepper, and a little bit of oil. Perfect.
Let's take it to the grill.
Bye-bye. Going to the grill. We're gonna cook a couple of those New York steaks. I've got them unseasoned, unflavored, no problem. We just take a simple dash of Chef Todd's pit seasoning. You can buy right here at Orson Giggy, and we season that up. Just like that. Okay, and then we're gonna take a little bit of bacon fat. Rub bacon fat on that steak, and we're gonna put that steak on right there. Season the top. Bacon fat on. Season the top. And then more bacon fat on top of that. That's all you need.
Go ahead.
So when you're grilling, you want to be able to have options, right? That's the best thing about our char grills, is there's lots of good options for our grill. So for instance, my chicken is cooking nicely on medium heat, but my steaks I need a little higher. So the steaks are a little higher because they're gonna go a little quicker, but you can see that nice crosshatch mark. Now I turn it the other way. I got that nice crosshatch on them, and I go that way, and then I'm gonna quarter turn them again after 5 or 6 minutes. The pork loin is on, and I've got it a little lower because I don't wanna burn it in the inside raw, because it's a thicker piece of meat. Same with the tri-tip. Look how nice that tri-tip color is, perfect, right? And that's just on medium heat. So a couple quick tips. Number one, your grill and your smoker are pieces of equipment and they can get dirty. The more you use your grill, the more dirty it gets. You've got to break your grill down regularly, meaning after every 5 to 6 uses. Brush it out, burn it, pull the ashtray out, vacuum it, vacuum everything, put it back together about every 6, maybe 7 times. Because that way it's going to be always consistent and it's going to run efficiently in how it's supposed to run, okay? The smoker, the same thing. The smoker every 4 to 5 times is what I suggest on cleaning. You should change the drip pan, you should change your drip, you should vacuum out the ash with the shop vac. And it takes work, it takes effort, and nobody wants to do it. It's a pain, but you need to do it to maintain your pieces of equipment.
We hope we didn't overwhelm you with the possibilities of what you can do on the grill, but we also wanted to open your eyes to realize that everything is endless and you can do so much, like this whole plate of food.
Grilling is supposed to be fun, so remember, when you're going to the grill, select your meats carefully. Buy whole meats when possible and butcher and break down yourself. You'll save money and you'll have better quality. Remember when you go to the grill that you gotta clean your grill. Make sure that you clean your grill, break it down regularly, keep it maintained. When you go to the grill, remember, don't be a flop, use your mop. There's so many wonderful things, grilling and smoking. It's just hard to wrap it all up, but we hope you've enjoyed the day and the videos. And also, we hope you enjoy Orson Giggy as much as we do, because it's our playground. Come down, buy the tools that you need to be successful. We have what you need to make all your grilling and smoking happy and memorable.
Just remember to enjoy the process, enjoy the people that you're cooking for, and food tastes so much better when it's made with love and excitement. So remember all those things and just get out to the grill.
Oh!